Hello, everybody. I wanted to be of service today and share an experience that I've been going through and how I've been adopting really helpful perspectives and how these perspectives have been just super supportive. And maybe in me sharing what I've been going through, there will be something in here that might help you shift your own perspectives about things that are difficult, that are happening in your own life. So the other day, I had a repair that needed to be done in the cabin, and my gut, my heart, the ground of being itself, told me, stay in the cabin while the landlord comes over and does the repair, just to make sure that he does it in a way that's okay and all of these things. But I had just done a lot of yoga. I had a tremendous amount of like kundalini heart opening release going on, so that I had tons of like this surging energy coursing through my body, a lot of fear coming up to be released. And I just was like, no, I'll just leave. He knows what needs to be done. Because I was like, I don't want to be here with him in this kind of energetic state, because it will be kind of awkward and it will be, just difficult for me. But the ground of being, nonetheless, told me to stay put. Told me to stay here and to just be here while he did the repair. And so, let me shut this window real quick. Yeah, thanks for your patience. So I ended up actually just leaving. I let the kind of the fear energy act through me. And I wasn't able to just kind of stay rooted in the ground of being's guidance, and in my power center's guidance. And so I ended up leaving. And so when I came home, it turns out that he had carried out the repair with some kind of oil compound, something, and the cabin just smelled like oil. And of course, if I were here, I would have said, let's not do that. Let's find an alternative way that's a bit cleaner, because I live in this cabin and I don't like to smell oil all the time. So I came home and I immediately knew, like, okay, I pretty much immediately knew, like, this is the universe trying to help me. And it's trying to show me, what happens when I kind of move from fear, or what happens when I leave my home in a metaphorical sense. And it was really related to how sometimes I'll leave my home, meaning my body. I'll leave it to chase something, usually after a pretty woman, and maybe I'll give my power away. And so when we leave our physical home, our physical bodies, well, then we're energetically compromised, right? And so that's when all kinds of things can come in, and we can create all of these difficult karmic energetic scenarios for ourselves. And those scenarios are for our own learning and growth. Just like leaving my home, my cabin, when I was guided not to, but I did out of fear. Just like that situation is helping teach me to stay more rooted in the guidance of the ground of being, and to not be pulled by fear as much, to not let fear energies act through me as often. And so from the deepest perspective, we are all creating our own reality, and we're creating our own experiences, so that we can learn and grow. Because we're not separate from creation. We're not separate from the creator. We are that, And so anything you're going through right now that's difficult, know from the deepest place, you're actually creating it for yourself. And that might be difficult for the mind to hear. And I'm not saying you're creating it from the egoic. Of course, the ego's not creating it, in a sense. But you are the creator of your own reality because you're one with your creator. And so whenever you create something difficult, the most empowered perspective to adopt is, well, why am I creating this from a certain depth of my being? What am I trying to teach myself? What am I trying to learn? Like, what's my inner being? What's my higher self? What's my soul trying to teach me via this experience? Because we are the soul, we are the higher self, we are our inner being, ultimately. And so because you are the creator of your own reality, you can actually feel into in real time and kind of map out why you created this. And for me, getting some chills saying that, for me, I realized, oh, I created this scenario where I got pulled out of my home by fear. And then, my landlord came in and unknowingly used all this stuff that, just smelled horrible. And I created this scenario where I came home and I was feeling uncomfortable and my sanctuary was turned into a place where I was like, I didn't really want to be in. I recognized that I created that for myself to show me what happens when I leave my power, when I leave my home, when I'm guided not to. It's like, it was a reflection of how often, or what kind of happens when I leave right here, and then I saw the parallels of how I do that sometimes, like I said, in chasing maybe the perfect partner that I think will complete me. And when I do that, how I'm leaving my center, and then things can come in, unwanted things can come in. And like I said, whether that's what happened in my cabin or the karmic stuff we might create in connection or whatever when we give our power away, when that happens, it's like, oh, this is a teaching. This is showing me I need to stay more rooted in the wisdom of the ground of being and not, that fight or flight, not take flight so frequently, not give my power away to the fear within me, to not let my fear act itself out through me. Instead, staying at home and alchemizing that fear, staying in my power and transmuting that fear. And this is really what's happened in the past when I've chased, partnership with a woman. It's the really afraid part of me, the part of me that feels abandoned, that feels in lack. It's temporarily acting out and it's kind of chasing. It's like that runner. It's like running after what it'll think will complete it, what it thinks will make it feel safe. And ultimately, we want that part of us to know that we are the one that is here to make it feel safe. We are the one that's going to hold it. We don't want to turn it into kind of like a foster child, right? Like, here, do you want to take care of this terrified child within me? Okay. And then eventually, of course, that person will always drop it. Oh, do you want to take care? And we go to the next person, or the next thing. Do you want to take care of this for me? And maybe at first they even do, and you want to try to take care of their terrified inner child. But eventually they're going to drop your inner child and you're going to drop theirs because it's designed to work like that. We're not meant to be saved in that way by another person. We are our own savior. Like it's designed so that we learn to be the unconditionally loving presence that our inner child learns to feel safe with in the end. Because the divine wants us to be liberated. Our higher self wants us to be free. And so that's why our higher self, and we're one with the higher self, of course, but I'll just say it like this. That's why our higher self will continually create circumstances to get us in touch with these really frightened, abandoned, abused, emotionally neglected parts of our own self, so that we can bring them home to the love within us, so that so that we can become fully embodied and fully integrated. And so I just wanted to share that experience. And so and using this experience, because like now that it's going through this process of having to air out the apartment, and it's having to smell the uncomfortable smells, and this, I'm very sensitive, probably like almost all of you. So it can be uncomfortable, it can be annoying. Sometimes, or I don't want to say sometimes, a lot of the times when something like this has happened, this really terrified inner child gets super triggered. And it can start to feel really afraid, and it can just feel sheer terror, even though I know the smell and the substance isn't actually going to be seriously harmful to me in any way. I've got everything, I've been, ventilating the place and all of that. It's more like the inner child feels the terror because the boundaries were kind of violated. And the person meant well, of course. It's not even really, and that's the thing, your reality that you're creating, it's not about others. They're just playing different roles and being different characters to help you come home to yourself. It's never about them in the deepest sense. So of course there was the well-meaning intention by that person, but it's like that terror of the inner child of, oh no, my home, my safe space has been violated. And learning two things, like, because it was violated, I get to meet the one who just never got to feel safe growing up and was always waiting for the next emotional outburst, or for the next time when someone blamed their inner emotional state on him, and then he had to be the one who tiptoed and managed everyone's feelings to make sure everyone was okay so that he could kind of feel safe. I'm meeting the one that, as it growing up, just was always in this place of like, I never, like, this part never knew, didn't have like a safe place to plug into, because everywhere to plug into, there was so much emotional turmoil. It felt unreliable. So this place just got really scared and had to get really small and got in this clench, And so when something even as kind of, we could say trivial as, what has happened in my cabin takes place, it brings that one back up. It brings him back up for me to meet. And so from one perspective, I can see, yes, I created this scenario to show me what happens when I don't stay aligned with the wisdom of the ground of being, when I don't stay in my power. And when I let fear control me, when I let fear take the wheel, these are the kinds of things that happen. Unwanted things come into my reality because I'm not there, to be that protective energy, right? To be that energy that says, hey, we're not using that. Sorry, I don't want to smell that. We're going to do this a different way. But it's all this, I can also see, because this can be multi-layered, I can also see how I created this scenario to help me meet more deeply the most frightened and abandoned parts of me that weren't protected, that had to get super small, that had been frozen in terror for God knows how long. And so something like this comes into my life that's super triggering. I mean, it's very triggering to be in your sanctuary and to have it just be a place that you kind of don't even want to be, because it's just like, ugh, I don't want to be doing this right now, and having the chemicals or whatever taking a long time to air out, and it's a small space, so it's just like, and not sleeping as good because the body, the nervous system, the inner child is feeling so upset. And so I can see I created this reality for myself of some temporary suffering and discomfort to help breathe love into the most fragile and tender and scared parts of myself. To help those parts realize, to kind of like rewire those parts for safety, even when something uncomfortable has happened. Because these parts do tend to get really triggered when stuff like this happens. And there's this sense that if I didn't create this for myself now, I probably would have created it in the future, because eventually our soul, our higher self, our true self wants to meet all of these wounded parts, wants to integrate them all back into the light so that we can move as a fully embodied vessel for the divine to work through. So whatever you're creating in your reality, you're creating it for a higher purpose. You're creating it probably just to clear fear or to meet a terrified inner child that really wants your love and presence. Or you're creating a reality to show yourself what happens when you let terror take the wheel, or when you let rage act out of you without first meeting it with love and breathing through it and seeing what it really needs. So we're always creating in every moment, and it's important to know that. And to know that takes you out of victim consciousness, and it places you in, you could say, this consciousness of empowerment. I want to say the word kingdom consciousness because it feels so empowering. I heard Abke or someone say that. Aaron Abke, I think. Been really enjoying him lately. He's got a lot of good stuff. I was first hearing him talk with Kyle Cease. But when we realize we're creating everything in our life, it does shift our perspective. So we can see, okay, I'm creating this, maybe not from the ego mind or from kind of that place that chases pleasure and just wants to avoid pain, but I'm creating this from the depth of my being because I'm one with the Creator. So there must be something very valuable in this experience that I'm meant to learn. And when we can start to shift and notice that and just really align with that truth, then we can start to really see how our reality is serving us, what kinds of insights it's trying to provide us with, what it's trying to reveal to us about our patterns, what it's trying to help us release that's no longer serving us. So for me, it's just been a big fear release, And it's been about staying at home. 6 months ago, 2 years ago, I might have just said, F it. I don't like this. I don't want to deal with this. And I would have just probably went into flight and just left. Because that was my pattern. That was my patterning. I'd just run when I feel these uncomfortable feelings. I don't want to feel these feelings. So I'll just run. But of course, eventually, I would create a reality where these feelings would come back up. And I would have to keep creating a reality where these feelings would keep being triggered until I was fully ready to meet them and integrate them. Massive chills when I said that. So sometimes we do that. We keep recreating the same type of scenarios that bring up the same type of uncomfortable feelings because we still have more of those feelings to release and to transmute. And sometimes we do it bit by bit. Sometimes we do bring it up and we end up running or we end up being reactive, and that's okay because your deeper self will always create another scenario where those feelings will come back up again so that you can heal them and release them. And so I'm noticing this time, because I've been doing so much of this work, that I'm actually shifting now to appreciation for everything that's happened. Massive freaking chills. I'm shifting to like, oh my God, thank you for allowing this to play out just as it did, because it revealed so much to me about my patterns and how and just kind of how I move in life. And I was just really feeling like I'm, in a deep sense, like glad it's all moving this way because I'm getting to really release some of the most fearful parts of me, some of the most stuck and frozen and absolutely terrified aspects of myself. I'm getting to really create this new loving relationship with them where I'm embracing them with grace and just happy that there's the spaciousness here to meet them and to let them move through, and that I'm noticing how I'm not being reactive or much less reactive, and how as I can feel in real time as I release these terrified feelings, as I bring them into my loving light of presence, how I'm actually deepening more into my center, into my power, into union with the ground of being itself. And what a gift, because whenever we release something heavy or frozen or stuck or terrified or angry, whenever we release something of that nature, we automatically become more in touch with who we really are. And we step through a doorway into more power, into more presence, into creating more realities that are joyful, that are enjoyable. But of course, we're in an evolutionary realm. So from the deepest sense, we're always going to be creating realities that are going to help us grow and take that next leap of consciousness. We're always going to be creating scenarios that are going to help our awareness to keep upgrading and to keep expanding. So when you realize that's sort of the point here, it's an evolutionary realm, we're here to grow, you can start to view your circumstances and your difficulties with this empowered perspective. That I am creating this for my own growth, for my own betterment, for my own expansion. And this is a huge shift in how you're going to move through reality. You start to see reality totally differently. You start to see every moment as an opportunity rather than as a burden. Because it is an opportunity to ascend more, to become more loving, to release something that's no longer serving you, to release energies that are heavy or that are rooted in lack. So every moment you're creating for yourself to evolve, to ascend. And just to start knowing yourself more and more as love. And that's a beautiful thing when you're able to see everything you're going through as a huge opportunity. It just starts to shift everything. And it's just so much more. You feel the sense of empowerment and the sense of strength and the sense of, just power. And everything is received as what it is, a divine gift for you to learn from. So that's the video. Thanks for tuning in. Really loving working with you guys one-on-one. Thank you for your donations if this work resonates with you. And loving having you guys on the Patreon as well. All of those links to support this work are in the description box. And something's coming through where if you're really in need of a session and my price is a bit too high, send me an email and we'll get something figured out. There's something in me that wants to, I've been receiving a lot of goodwill recently, and there's something in my heart that just wants to keep it flowing through and to give an offering to maybe some of you who need some one-on-one support, but are just not quite financially able to afford a session with me, but you're feeling like this inspiration that you really want to meet one-on-one. I want to make myself a bit more available. So I'm going to make scholarship sessions available through the end of Sunday. So that's for any of you. If you're needing like a scholarship session, you can't afford my normal rate. For the next 3.5 days or so, I'll make myself available to you. Just send me an email via the contact me link. We'll get something figured out for you. I just want to be available to those who need me and to really pass on some of this goodwill that's been coming into my life and just to be of service to you guys. So that feels good. I feel the light just making me say that at the end, and it felt really good to say. So I'm here for you if you need it. Other than that, just sending you guys so much love, so much strength, so much light. See you in the next video. Namaste.